What do the iPhones 14 and iOS 16 mean for Apple's future? This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Zocdoc. Find doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them. Download the free Zocdoc app at zocdoc.com/MacVoices. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. As we wrap up our look at the new features of iOS 16 and the iPhones 14, we take a little bit broader view of what their features and the development of existing features means to the future of the Apple platforms. Let's go back and let the panel do the talking.
Yeah, so mentally, what I'm trying to figure out is this something new, or is this something that's an improvement, that will, that make it easier to do something we're already able to do, and people will either become very passionate about it and love it, or it just is irrelevant to them depending on how they react to it. I'm trying to figure out sort of what is the nature of the innovation here in terms of how people are using the device.
But to your point, there's notifications that come out that, if you don't have this on, they do pop out. You see the light, something happened. But how nice is it to, how bad is it when you see that and you look over and your phone went back to sleep? Now you have to move.
Oh my God, yeah, you have to touch it. Again, that's what I'm saying.
Fine. You want to talk about things like that, you talk about accessibility, you talk about emergency situations, you talk about things like, oh my God, you have to touch it, but who knows, right?
And Mark, one of the widgets that I haven't tried out for any length of time because I don't really care about, the headlines, but there is an Apple News widget. So I'm assuming that that's going to throw up, the most recent story or two or three, that's at the top of the headlines at the moment. Mm-hmm. So, what this turns it into is a bit of it's an information device. It's a billboard kind of thing, that this is the information that's going to be there. The difference is it's not static. It's always up to date. So,
if you turn it off, there's nothing.
If you can, I think this, like the dynamic island, it seems to me it's the way I think about it, again, not having experience, is that, this is providing more plasticity in terms of how to mold the phone to interact with you the way you want to see stuff. It's not dramatically adding new capability. It's personalizing how you get to see stuff, that is already there, albeit, one touch, or a touch swipe away.
Yeah,
I've been waiting for this for years. I'm ecstatic. I love it.
But Mark, your word "dramatically" is an interesting word, because I don't think it is a dramatic thing, but it is, at least so far, I found it to be very useful and very desirable.
Yeah. I mean, none of the things so far, at least, are like things that are unique to the always on display or to the lock screen. All of the information is somewhere else, but it's easier to access.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I like the part where, if you're in like a conference room or something with other people, right now, if you take and you wiggle your phone or tap it or whatever to quick read something, you get this glaring bright, bring everybody's attention to you. The always on is nice and dim. It doesn't change. It's always there. So I've got, a bunch of status things that are sitting up there. I can see it. I know what the time is. I know what the current date is. And I have like battery levels that is perfect. All the things that kind of bother me, make me want to reach for my phone and quick check. It's already there. I don't have to touch anything. It doesn't have a big spotlight thing that goes off, drawing attention to me while I'm trying not to have to contribute.
And I'll bring up another point, Eric, just to be devil's advocate, because I think this group of people in years past have pointed out that one of the benefit of the iPhone is you have a subtle little device you can look at and gaze at stuff without drawing attention to everybody in your meeting. So is this pendulum swinging back the other way? That now we can do the same thing, on the phone.
Yes,
Not
and
everybody
that's
has a
one of
watch.
and that's one of the reasons why where notifications where you might have your notifications in this work mode set in a way that they don't pop up and brighten up your screen, but they're still there. You can glance at them while you're in a meeting without anybody even noticing that there was a new notification.
It's the first feature in a while that makes people realize you have the newest phone too. And I mean,
that's true.
that it's very noticeable. In fact, the first week I turned it off because my wife would start asking questions of why my phone's doing that. So I turned it off, and when I ease her into the fact that I bought this phone, I'll turn it back on when she's here. So it's definitely something that doesn't look like past iPhones, right? And it's a new feature.
Just tell her it's a software upgrade.
Well, I thought about that too, but then I'll update hers to iOS 16, and she'll say, "Well, turn mine on now." I'm like, okay.
I wanted you to bring up your case issue because I thought that was an interesting one, and I really hadn't thought about it. Because you had mentioned before what kind of case you use.
Oh yeah,
this may affect how you feel about this.
The under the topic of the always on feature, like I said, I use a wallet case, so the always on feature doesn't impress me much because I have the face of the phone covered. But then again, I never thought that I'd like the always on feature of the Apple Watch, and I like that a lot. So, habits can change, but right now the always on feature is not anything that I get real excited about.
Okay. Yeah, and sort of to Patrice's point, and in response to Mark's question, up till now, I mean, it was a game changer to have messages or texts or notifications come in on my watch, and I could surreptitiously look down and see it. But that can only be so surreptitious. Here, if the phone is sitting right there in front of you and your watch pulses, now you don't have to look at the watch. You can look over at your phone with the always on screen and see what's going on. So, I mean, talk about first world problems, folks. But
So again, Chuck, this makes me think. Is this Apple just testing new sort of features and interaction modes in preparation for the much talked about and hypothesized, Apple AR VR glasses of some sort that now we can see, yes, a little thing, Apple down 2 points or Apple up 2 points, so holy crap, I got to go call my broker, or whatever your notification is that if this is just an experimental mechanism to roll out new features to get people used and accustomed to them, so that when they already have, so that at whatever hypothetical future date, if this thing ever gets rolled out, they can say, oh, and you already know how to use it. It has all the features that you've known and loved for years in iOS 16 through iOS whatever.
Mark, I don't think there's any question that they'll be gathering information. How many of us put the stock widget in? How many of us, and which stock widget? Because there are a couple. How many of us put the temperature in? How many put the headlines of the day in? So I think that will be potentially useful information, at least from a popularity standpoint, so they know where to focus their efforts. Because would I want to walk around with a stock widget here all the time and a weather widget over here all the time in my field of view, and as I turn, it would turn with me, so it's always in my field of view? I'm not sure. I kind of doubt it, but depending on what you do for a living, maybe.
And you could decide, okay, do I want something like dynamic island that comes in, pops up, and shrinks and expands as data output is necessary, or do I want a screen that presents it and displays it? They can pre-train people to all these modes of interacting with something that's directly in their visual field.
And the word dynamic, I mean, we all kind of laughed about this is such a terrible name, but it really does communicate the capabilities of this. so that it's not like what we've had in the past, where the notifications have been really relatively big and obnoxious. Now there's a potential to have them just show up very small and expand as the space is needed, and then disappear after maybe a set period of time. That maybe you can set that, maybe not. So I think it's a really interesting way of looking at things, and will it catch on? I mean, so far it seems like everybody here really liked it, and we're just anxious to see what else can be done with it. So.
My most favorite part of that is that you can have the battery status of your watch, because while you're wearing the watch, it's easy to see, how much battery you have left. But if you wear it all the time and use it for sleep tracking, there are moments where you get a short time window and you need to charge it. I can take it off, throw it on the charger, and the phone right there on the front screen tells me, yep, it's 80% charged or it's 100% charged. I can see it right there. And I walk around with the magnetic battery. So it also will switch over and it'll show me the charge on the battery without having to go somewhere else to go try and figure out how much charge do I have, or having to take the battery off, put it back on again to look. So just charge levels of devices, that's been extremely helpful.
Will it show you your AirPods too?
And can I just mention something what Mark said though?
Hang on, Warren. Let Eric answer and then go. Eric?
Yeah, I haven't tried the AirPods part yet, so I'll look and let you know, Jim.
Okay. Warren?
So, Mark's right. I mean, things are getting redundant. You could do things, you could check all the things on your watch that you could check on your phone and vice versa. And is Apple just kind of like gearing up to some one master operating system where everybody knows what it looks like and it's all going to be the same kind of design language and, things like that? And that's probably, yeah. But, while Eric was talking, I'm like, he's like, yeah, I could look at my watch and get all of my batteries from, status from my phone and all that stuff. And like in a second, were we talking about the phone again? Or we're talking, I mean, it's crazy because it's basically, you could see every device information from every Apple device at this point. So, is it a good thing, or is it, are you losing the identity of what that device actually does at some point?
Warren, I guess I would submit to you, though, that that's the development of the Apple infrastructure, that it doesn't matter what device I'm on, I'm going to have access to essential, what will be for me essential or necessary, desired information. No matter which device I have, I can get that information. So I'm not
mostly the same, right? It's mostly the same information on every device that you're looking at for the most part.
Yeah.
So Apple's like, we're just going to throw as many screens in front of them that has this kind of information, and hopefully they buy them all. But
it's
in
only
theory,
redundant if you're looking at multiple places, though. If you don't have a watch, you're probably only looking at your computer or at your phone at one time.
Right. But
like we're not normal is what I'm saying.
Steve Jobs, I think, said something to the effect as the best computer is the one that's in front of you that you're staring at, or something like that. And that's what Apple's doing. Basically, you got your Mac, you got your iPad, you got your phone and your watch in that succession of bigness and order and convenience of how easy it is to get to that device and look at it and see it and interact with it. So you're always going to gravitate. Human nature is to gravitate to the easiest device you can get to get that information as fast as possible. And that's what they're doing, is basically, the watch right now is the closest thing to us that we could go look at for some information, but then we have to go bigger when it, involves more work, with that device, right? So then we'll go to the phone if we can't do what we could do on the watch, and, you'll go up until you hit your Mac. So, so it is a lot of overlap, but it's basically the Apple is saying we're putting all these devices of different shapes and sizes and interactions that all kind of do the same thing and you're going to be able to get to whatever device you want to the quickest. And if you can't do what you need to do on that device, you're going to go bigger. And that's the whole argument too with the iPads versus Mac, right? Because, a lot of people want to stop at the iPad, that chain from the watch to the phone to the iPad and not have to worry about a Mac. But some people can't do it. So, can we one day do everything we want to do on the watch? Probably not. Can we one day do everything we want to do on the AR VR thing on our head? Maybe. I don't know. We'll find out.
Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by Zocdoc. Find local doctors who take your insurance at Zocdoc.com/MacVoices. Zocdoc's mobile app is as easy as ordering a ride to a restaurant or getting delivery to your home. Search, find, and book doctors with a few taps. And while you want that ride or that delivery, you probably need that doctor's visit. Go to Zocdoc.com/MacVoices, find the doctor that's right for you, and book an appointment, in person or remotely, that works for your schedule. With Zocdoc, you can find the right doctor for you in your network and in your neighborhood. One that makes you feel like you're in good hands, you're supported, and you're heard. And isn't that exactly the kind of doctor that you really want? Go to Zocdoc.com/MacVoices and download the Zocdoc app for free. Then start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's Zocdoc.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Zocdoc for their support of MacVoices. I think it almost also depends on the attitude you approach it with. If the attitude you want it to approach it with is, Apple's just trying to sell us everything, so they're slapping information everywhere, okay, then that's fine. You're not going to find it desirable. But if you've bought into the Apple ecosystem and you utilize this stuff, then in fact, it would be, I'd have to think about it a little bit, but it would be nice to be able to say, these are the 5 pieces of information that I find useful. And I want to sync that across my watch, my phone, my iPad, my Mac. What else do I have? My Apple TV, maybe, so that those are going to be 5 pieces of information that show up for me.
Or an audio version.
Yes, thank you, Mark. Yeah, good point. Or, for the Apple glasses. So, right now you have to go and set everything manually. But if I had that kind of setting, would that be advantageous? I kind of think it might be.
So Apple obviously tried with the personal assistant before, getting to the point of the watch and the glasses, right? That was a whole concept of being able to get as much information into your ear as possible with Siri. And it's not a great system. If you watch it, I know I brought it up before, but if you watch the movie Her, with Joaquin Phoenix, basically the computers of the future are personal assistants, and all he has is a thing in his ear, and he could do everything from that, pretty much everything. And then, you walk, if you walk past the screen, you could get information on the screen, and it kind of connects to your computer in your ear. But that was a goal. That was a goal of Apple and a lot of people at some point with this personal assistant, where you could do almost everything in it. And then they realized, well, you can't really do everything in it. So now we're working.
Not yet.
Not yet. Thank you, Patrice. Yeah. I mean, we're talking about, you go the whole way back to the Knowledge Navigator video, which was pure fantasy. And in fact, I don't think any of us realized how much fantasy it was at the time. But we're getting there. We're getting there in fits and starts, slow but sure. 2 steps forward, 1 step back, but we're getting there. I just hope I live long enough to see it myself.
Yeah, no, I'd like to make a comment that on some of this discussion about these different types of devices, and instead of being cynical and thinking that Apple just wants to sell us a lot more stuff, instead we should look at it. What is the unique benefit and purpose of each device? And yes, there is overlap, and it seems that what Apple's trying to do is make seamless the interoperability, data portability, etc., between devices when there is overlap. Because to use an analogy, a screwdriver is great for screwing in screws, but sometimes when you need it, turning around, it could make a make-do hammer as well. So similarly for these various computer devices with and without screens that we have, they have maybe each their own center of sweet spot of what it's good for, but they're not they're not disjoint. They overlap in various ways. So that I notice sometimes, just as an example, getting text messages is short and sweet. I'll look at it on my watch. If I can see, I'm going to have to scroll, I immediately whip out my phone and read it there, because that way I can see, this is a 5-paragraph message, where contextually you just couldn't see that on the phone. On your watch. So I think we're seeing a lot of sophistication in terms of better tailoring how we want to interact and get information from each of our various devices. So I'm really intrigued to see how it grows and evolves.
Mark, though, you reminded me of something that over the weekend, it's not a feature I use frequently, but when it's convenient, it really is super useful. I was in my car and I have CarPlay in the car, and somebody sent me a text message basically asking me when I was going to arrive. And so I told the S lady to read it to me, because I could see a message popped up on the screen, but not the message itself, just a green notification. Right. So read me the message. She read me the message. Do you want to reply? Yes. And I think I don't know if this is new in 16, because I didn't remember having this option before. Then she read my response. I dictated the response. She asked me if I wanted to change or send the message. And I said, send, and did. And so I had a whole text conversation driving down the road and never touched anything.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a change to it. I mean, I experienced that too.
Yeah, but it has been around for like 4 or 5 years at least.
Oh yeah, but Patrice, it's become much more reliable, and much better. So that's what I mean by making progress here. We all want it to be Star Trek, out of the gate, and it's not going to be. We have to be a little bit patient and try to get there. But if you're not taking advantage of all these little features and experimenting with them and see what fits, everyone doesn't have to fit you. I'm afraid we all fall victim to that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this feature is trash because it doesn't really affect me. Brittany has taught. I'm going to say me. I won't take credit for or characterize it for anybody else. Brittany has taught me a lot, though, about some of the accessibility features and why they're important for people that have challenges that I don't, that I'm lucky enough not to. So,
but everyone's going to have a different challenge, right? Like as you get older, I got news. Your vision doesn't get better. And,
good point.
Like everybody has a different struggle, whether or not they feel like they have an official disability or even just a preference. Like, I get a little motion sickness with the thing shrinking. I mean, I don't, but somebody does. Some people don't like some of the new screen features because they don't work well with their stomach for whatever reason. It's their brain, but anyway, doesn't work for them. And so how cool is it that we can do things to fit our preferences, whether or not they have an official title?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Something as simple as dark mode. I mean, it took a long time to get there, but how many of us run dark mode on a regular basis?
All the time.
Every night.
I do. That's all I run.
24/7.
Yeah.
So
I never run it. There's not enough contrast. I can't see anything.
It's a perfect example.
Everybody's different. Yeah.
Right.
It's the same reason why my watch is grayscale. I guess grayscale.
That's interesting, Eric.
I do it sometimes just to save battery.
See. Yeah.
Yeah, see? So the panel is an example of, it's a little microcosm of, why you should get out there and experiment. Well, guys, we got to iOS or iPhone 16 and or iPhone 14 and iOS 16, and that's as far as we got. But I think it was an interesting conversation. I want to thank everybody for showing up, and definitely thanks to the chat room. They've been throwing just occasional comments in. I guess we've just been so mesmerizing that they've been kind of quiet. It's my story. I'm sticking to it. Yeah,
or they all asleep.
Yeah. So let's go around the room, let folks know where they can find you, and then we'll get out of here. And I'm going to flip it around and start with at the bottom this time with Brittany. Britt, thank you so much for being here. Glad you were able to hang in with us. Where can we find you?
Thanks for having me. You can find my nerdy tweets at ADD Liberator on Twitter, and on YouTube, you can find my things also ADD Liberator. Today, I posted about how iOS 16 has finally finished ruining my notification center.
Okay. Well, something to look forward to after we get off the air.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you, Brittany. Mr. Fuccio, are you or are you not running for office?
Oh, I'm definitely not running for office, but
Okay.
I'll make ingratiating comments. I'd like to, welcome Eric and Webb to our panel, and I think we'll have great discussions going forward in the future.
Yeah,
Thank you, Mark.
I should have announced that. I'm sorry. Yeah, that Eric and Webb are now officially members of the panel. They're not just guests. So you'll be seeing a lot more of them. But I'm not sure how often Webb will show up in a tie. But hey, he's good. Ed's an element of class.
Depends on how much he has to do battle.
What time is it? Ladder Webb. Mr. Fuccio, where can folks find you?
Easiest way to contact me is Twitter at MarkFuccio, at Mark Fuccio, all lowercase, or via LinkedIn.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Patrice, thank you so much for staying up one last time with us. Maybe we'll see you back again around the holidays, because that's sort of the way it seems to work out. What's the best place for folks to contact you?
Well, you can find me every week on the British Tech Network on Thursdays for the Big Show, where we talk about everything that is not Apple, and on Fridays with Chuck as well, and Dave and Jeff and some other cool people for the Mac Show, where we talk about the Apple stuff. Everything I'm doing, all the social media links, the projects, podcasts, all of that you can find on thepatrice.com. And if you want to listen to something not tech related, I have an interview show called Foodie Flashback, where we talk about food and food related stories and memories.
Okay. Thanks for being here, Patrice. Appreciate it. Jim Ray, staying away from the front lines. What's the best place to find you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good now.
Okay. Provue.com, PROVUE, and on Twitter at ProvueJim.
Thank you, Jim. Good to see you. Mr. Sklar, if you pay us enough money, we won't tell your wife that you bought a new phone.
I barely get to talk
There's
to
not
her.
enough money in the world for that.
I barely get to communicate with her, let alone you guys, so I'm not worried about it. So she's a busy lady.
Where can we find you, Warren?
When I'm free to podcast, I'll do this show and Dave's show on Thursday. The Back to the Future group is actually hopping. Somebody posted a recommendation to go there in one of the groups, and we got hundreds of people, so that's good. And everybody's talking about their new toys, so it's a fun place if you want to do that. Otherwise, thanks for having me.
Great, thank you. Webb, thank you for showing up. I know you're iPhone 14-less right at the moment, but you'll be making for that up ×2 in the next week or so.
I'm not iPhone challenged. I still got my 13s are working just fine. So
yeah, that's good. That's good. What's the best way for folks to contact you?
Probably the best way is Twitter at WebBixby, one word, WEB, BIXBY, and on Facebook, WebBixby, 2 words, WEB and BIXBY. That's it.
Great. Thank you, Webb. Good to see you. And as Mark said, welcome to the panel. Mr. Eric, the man with the grayscale watch. I just learned something. I didn't even think about having a grayscale watch. I got to go check the settings. What's the best place? Yeah.
I can be reached at on Twitter at EABOLDEN, EA Bolden. Yeah, that's the easiest.
Okay, great. And welcome to the panel to you as well. Glad to have you.
Thanks.
Last but absolutely not least, Mr. David Ginsburg. David, I'm glad that you're continuing your recovery. Where can folks find you?
Thanks for having me, Chuck, and thank you. You can find me at In Touch with iOS at intouchwithios.com. Chuck will actually be on the show this week, which I'm looking forward to. You'll also find our YouTube channel, youtube.com/intouchwithios. I'm on the Mac Show on Fridays on the British Tech Network, as Patrice mentioned, as well as on Twitter at DaveG65. Thanks.
Thank you, David. Good to see you. So one more time, thanks again to the chat room. Good to see you all. Folks, if you've been joining us live, we do this every Tuesday nights. This is Mac Voices Live at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We'd love to have you in the chat room talking, throwing comments and questions and your thoughts too. Until next week, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.